And the math is not adding up. They're trying to convince people that they are cutting millions of undocumented people from payroll. Who do you believe? The people who are trying to cut this, not, by the way, to cut from quote unquote undeserving people to give to deserving people.
Go get them, President Trump. Reduce that spending. We're behind you 1,000%. Well, he has. He has. 0.1% he's asking us to reduce. It is gut check time. It is gut check time. You either believe in reducing spending or you don't.
Whenever I watch a congressional hearing involving AOC, I expect a lively and passionate debate. She typically opens with strong, emotionally driven arguments and speaks with confidence, often portraying those who disagree with her as missing the bigger picture. Her focus is usually on the human impact of policies, presenting the discussion as an important moral responsibility. However, once Senator John Kennedy begins speaking, the atmosphere changes noticeably. Rather than responding with the same level of emotion, he relies on facts, statistics, and direct questioning. The exchange showcases two very different approaches to the issue. AOC emphasizes protecting healthcare and supporting vulnerable communities, while Kennedy shifts the discussion toward government spending, asking whether taxpayers deserve greater accountability for how public funds are used. Using a whiteboard covered with financial figures, he carefully examines the claims presented and steers the conversation back to the data. Regardless of where viewers stand politically, his method significantly changes the direction and tone of the hearing. Watch the complete exchange to see how the discussion develops and why many people believe Kennedy reshaped the debate.
13.7 million people, 13.7 million Americans will be cut off from their health care and made completely uninsurable by the bill that Republicans are presenting today. You know, there's a lot that I've been hearing, and I've been listening to my Republican counterparts here today and what they've been saying about this bill. And the math is not adding up. They're trying to convince people that they are cutting millions of undocumented people from payroll, from Medicare, acting as though this is what's going to save it. Even if you believe everything that Republicans have said today, they are identifying 1 million, their claim, which I dispute, but if you believe them, their claim is that 1 million undocumented people are on Medicaid. So why are they trying to cut 13.7 million Americans off their health care? By the Republicans' own Energy and Commerce tweet this morning, their claim is 7.6 million people are somehow ineligible for health care. So why are they cutting 13.7 million Americans off their health care? They've asked us to read this bill, and we have. This bill bans the people that they kick off of Medicaid from even buying their own insurance from the Affordable Care Act exchange. So once you are kicked off Medicaid, you then can't even buy your own health insurance. It increases costs for people who they deem eligible and who are low income and forces them to pay even more. And if you have a private insurer, don't worry, you're getting screwed over too, because your healthcare premiums are going to skyrocket from the disaster that is happening from this bill. We've done assessments, because if you live in a rural community, you're going to be hurt too. In New York 23, 25% of people are on Medicaid in this area of upstate New York. Westfield Memorial Hospital will be at risk of closure. UPMC Chautauqua is at risk of closure. Schuyler Hospital at risk of closure. California 23, where 46% of people are on Medicaid. Redlands Community Hospital at risk of closure if this passes. Victor Valley Global Medical Center, Loma Linda University Medical Center, all at risk of closure. Colorado 8, 24% of people in this community are on Medicaid, and Platte Valley Medical Center will be at risk of closure if these cuts pass. Who do you believe? The people who are trying to cut this, not by the way, to cut from quote unquote undeserving people to give to deserving people. But they are cutting these Medicaid care and these Medicaid dollars to pay for tax cuts for Elon Musk and billionaires. So this money isn't even going towards funding better care for people who are eligible. This money is going, and we are cutting money and health care from people and families who are suffering to pay for tax cuts for the rich. It is a crime happening in front of the American public right now. And I yield back.
For an open statement.
I want to say, Mr. President, next week, President Trump's going to send us over what's called a rescission bill. What does that mean? Well, we've got a $7 trillion budget, okay? I don't know how much of that $7 trillion is waste, but every fair-minded person would have to agree that there's some money being spent in that $7 trillion that shouldn't be spent. It just shouldn't. It's wasted money. And so President Trump and this Congress made one of its objectives trying to reduce spending. Not spending that we need to reduce, but spending that needs to be reduced. I call it spending porn. And the president has sent us a bill. He's saying to Congress, I want you to reduce spending in the current budget by $9.1 billion. And let me tell you what the spending, what constitutes the spending I want to reduce. Well, first, $9.1 billion out of a $7 trillion budget, we're not talking about a lot of money here. We're talking about 1/10 of 1%. That's all. That's point one. Point two, you need to look at what the president's asking us to cut out. I'll just give you a couple of examples. I didn't make this up. The president is saying we're giving $3 million to Iraq to produce Sesame Street. Maybe we could use that money for something else. The president is saying we're giving $3 million to Zambia for circumcisions and vasectomies. The president's saying we don't need to do that. We've got other priorities. We're giving $500,000 to Rwanda to buy electric buses. The president is saying to us, Congress, we don't need to be spending the money on that. There are more important things. We're spending $67,000 to give insect powder to kids in Madagascar. I don't even know what insect powder is, but the president's asking us to cut it out. We're giving $3,600,000 to Haiti for pastry cooking classes, for cyber cafes, for dance focus groups, for male prostitutes. The president's saying, I don't think so. I don't think that the American people support giving their hard-earned money to male prostitutes in Haiti. So he's asking us to cut it out. He's asking us to reduce the budget by $833,000 because some of President Biden's bureaucrats gave a contract to transgender people, sex workers, and their clients in Nepal. The president's saying, I don't want to do that. And he's right. That's enough. You get the idea. That's why I call it spending porn. Triggers your gag reflex. You look at this stuff and you go, what in God's name? Who decided to do this? Well, Congress didn't. The bureaucrats did. It's money we appropriated, but we didn't tell them to go spend money, $833,000, and give to sex workers in Nepal. They just took the money we appropriated and used it for that. And so the president is asking us to do what's called a rescission, to cancel the spending. Now, I have listened, I've been here 8 years, Mr. President, and I've listened to a whole bunch of people talk about the need to reduce spending. But you got to watch what people do, not what they say. Because talk is cheap. And around here, I've learned pretty quickly that reducing spending, it's like going to heaven. I want to go to heaven. I bet you want to go to heaven, Mr. President. I bet our guests in the gallery want to go to heaven. But everybody wants to go to heaven. Raise your hand if you're ready to take the trip today. Most people, you are, sir, and I admire that, but most people want to live a little longer. And that's the way it is with reducing spending around here. I want to reduce spending. I support it, but not just yet, because I've got this project. Well, and I've listened to that. And I've especially listened to it for the past 100 days. Go get them, President Trump. Reduce that spending. We're behind you 1,000%. Well, he has. He has. 0.1% he's asking us to reduce. And I'm not saying senators shouldn't ask questions and make some changes if they need to be made, but here's the bottom line. It is gut check time. It is gut check time. You either believe in reducing spending or you don't. And if you talk the game and say, let's reduce spending, and you vote against this bill, in my opinion, you ought to hide your head in a bag. Because you will be able to cut the hypocrisy with a knife. It's real hard, Mr. President, to preach temperance from a bar stool. It's gut check time.
Contrast between two competing perspectives. Representative AOC began by warning that proposed budget reductions could leave millions without health insurance, force rural hospitals to shut down, and ultimately benefit wealthy individuals through tax cuts. Throughout her remarks, she emphasized the potential impact on everyday Americans, using emotional language and visual examples to illustrate what she believed were the real-life consequences of the proposals. Her message centered on the idea that reducing federal funding could place vulnerable communities at greater risk. Those who disagree with her interpretation argue that it doesn't fully reflect what Republicans, including Senator Kennedy, say they are advocating. Their position is that the objective is not to reduce essential health care or public services, but to eliminate unnecessary government spending and improve accountability. When Senator Kennedy took the microphone, he adopted a much more measured approach. Rather than responding emotionally, he focused on financial data and budget figures. Standing beside a display outlining federal expenditures, he pointed out that a proposed $9.1 billion reduction is relatively small compared with the federal government's roughly $7 trillion annual budget. To support his argument, he cited several overseas programs funded by U.S. taxpayers, including educational initiatives in Iraq, healthcare projects in Zambia, electric transportation efforts in Rwanda, and development programs in Nepal as examples of spending he believed deserved closer scrutiny. Kennedy argued that these examples demonstrate there are opportunities to reduce government expenses without cutting vital services that Americans rely on. In his view, lawmakers should carefully distinguish between programs that are essential and those that may provide limited value for taxpayers. Supporters of AOC maintain that even modest budget reductions can have meaningful effects on healthcare access and social support systems, particularly for lower-income families and rural communities. Supporters of Kennedy, meanwhile, contend that the government should first eliminate inefficient or low-priority spending before seeking additional taxpayer funding. The exchange highlighted a broader debate over the proper role of government, balancing public investment with fiscal discipline, and deciding how taxpayer money should be allocated. Ultimately, which argument resonates more with viewers depends on their beliefs about government spending, budget priorities, and the balance between protecting public services and controlling federal expenditures.